Thank you for checking out another episode of the What is Cycling podcast. On today's episode, I got to sit down with a very special guest, Joanna Yates. Joanna is a mountain biking coach, an instructor, and a guide who is paving the way for women in self-confidence. You are going to feel inspired because I sure did. We also announced some exciting news in this episode, so make sure you pay attention. Let's go. We are coming to you not live from Sedona, Arizona, and Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. So today I'm chatting with Joanna Yates, a mountain biking coach and guide with her husband Phil. Phil?
Phil. He goes by Phil.
Phil.
But yeah, Philip. Yeah.
Phil, yeah. And she also is empowering women on the mountain bike and just an all-around great person for the previous conversations we've been having. So thank you for coming on the show today, and I'm really excited to have you on.
Dude, thank you. I'm stoked to chat with you and talk all things about the mountain bike.
Yeah, same here. So I found out about you from the Butterman B-Hop, Brandon Hopkins. And I've been following you
Yes.
for a while now. So your Instagram is amazing. All the content you push out is amazing. So I can't wait just to dig into it.
Dude, I love that. Yeah, Brandon, what a powerhouse. Love it. I loved listening to the
Yeah.
episode that you guys did. And his content, I'm like, yes, keep it up. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, he not only is he great as an athlete on the bike, but just a family man, like a good
I
family man, and
know.
it's great.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome.
So first off, I want to ask, how did you find your way to Sedona?
Oh man, loaded question. But yeah, let's start it off. So I made my way to Sedona because I was sick of the snow in West Virginia. Long story short, and Phil is my husband, and we wanted to get out of West Virginia and change it up. We wanted to switch up our lifestyle. So I'm originally from West Virginia, born and raised, and we were living at Snowshoe Mountain in West Virginia. And so we did the summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter thing for about 7 years. And we both worked pretty crazy hours for the resort there. And one of the reasons why we moved there was to pursue our passions of play. So, snowboarding and mountain biking. And that was great for a while, but then we got caught up in the work aspect of it. And we were just working way too much. And we decided after a while, like, hey, this is not what we want to be doing with our lives right now. We don't want to have that traditional like 9 to 5, and we want to go pursue something different. So we sold everything, we packed up the house, and within a month, we were like, we're moving to Sedona. And why Sedona? We did a bunch of research beforehand. We had visited Sedona before, and we just loved the riding out here. And it hit all the spots that we were looking for. We wanted to ride our bikes full time, and you can do that in Arizona, which is amazing. We have amazing trail access in Sedona. It is a mountain bike mecca. I mean, everybody knows who's a mountain biker in the industry is like, hey, let's go ride bikes in Sedona. And the riding here is world class. I mean, I've been here for 5 years now, and I don't get sick of it. So it's pretty amazing. But yeah, that's what led us to Sedona.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I probably the three best places to see a sunset for me that I've experienced is Longmont, Colorado at the Rockies, Sedona with like all the red rock and
Oh,
stuff, and then probably the Outer Banks. But yeah, Sedona was so gorgeous. And one kind of crazy thing that I learned was that you have elk there, which I thought that all of Arizona
yes.
was like a desert, but I didn't realize that like the Grand Canyon and everything was at elevation. So you have elk and stuff. And I was like, what the heck are these signs? That's just so wild to
Yeah,
me.
dude, I know. And like, cause Flagstaff is only 45 minutes from here. Like, you can drive up Oak Creek Canyon and be in Flagstaff in no time. And yeah, I see elk up there pretty frequently.
Yeah, see, that's awesome. Any day that you get to see an elk, like that's a pretty sweet day. And so, how long have you been riding? Like, I know you've been a coach for a while, but how long in life have you been riding?
Oh, I mean, in life, I mean, riding a bicycle, I don't know, probably since I was like, pretty young. Like, they training wheels, you start at like 6 and 7. That's when you first start riding your bike. But mountain biking, I got into mountain biking in college and I bought my first mountain bike with Pell Grant money that I received for tuition one year. And I was like, I have this extra money. Like, I'm going to go buy a mountain bike. And it was a Trek 3 Series hardtail with 26-inch wheels. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, this bike is $500. Like, what? This is so expensive. But I was so stoked because it was a different way for me to get outside. And little did I know that years later I would make that career. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And now I guess that doesn't make sense to say I would give a lot of money for bikes to be that cheap again, but
yeah,
yeah,
I
they're
know.
not that cheap
It's kind of
anymore.
no, and they're hard to get. They're still kind of hard to get these days. So,
Yeah, COVID really did us in. For all the people that biked before COVID, we kinda got bit by the bike boom, but it's kind of
yeah.
gradually starting to work its way out, but it's still if you need something, there's no telling how much time it's gonna take.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. That was a hard hit for everybody, but in the best way, I think, because more people found their way to mountain biking. And yeah, it's blown up, but how amazing is that more people are riding and getting on bikes and seeing the joy that just being outside in this way, brings you so much joy in riding the bike and just the things that you overcome while riding. So I think it's great.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially, like, people getting outside, but also realizing how important mental health and stability is. Like, I think that was a huge awakening for everyone too to be like, this job is, like, too stressful or, like, "You know what? It's not worth it. I need to focus on myself, my family, what stuff I'm passionate about," and I really think, like, that was it's hard to see the good in that, but that's definitely one of the
Mm.
positives that came out of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. And it teaches you so many things, which I'm sure we'll get into, but being on the bike, it really does teach you to be present and connect back with your breath and appreciate where you are in the world and being outside. And especially if you get to ride in a place like Sedona, you're like, wow, I need to take this in. I need to appreciate where I am in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your favorite trail in Sedona?
Oh man. So
Or maybe
I am
top
gonna
3?
say, yeah, I'm gonna say, okay, so top three: Hangover, Brewer, and the Hogs. So that's two of the H's in there. But I also love Brewer Trail. Brewer Trail is like right outside my house. So I can just like, I always start my rides with that. And it's just this fun downhill that just has a little bit of everything. And yeah, those are definitely my top three.
And then do you climb the trail back up to get to your house?
No, it's not like, yeah, I'm good on that. I'll usually make it a loop, so we'll kinda go
Okay.
around and then maybe hit some other trails and then climb back up to the house,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah, it's a fun
Nice.
descent.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So would you say that your style in mountain biking is downhill or, like, what do you tailor your riding style to?
I would classify my riding style to enduro, even though I
Oh,
have a
okay.
downhill. Yeah, I have a downhill background. That's really where I first started riding. Actually, some cross country and downhill, being from Snowshoe, West Virginia, and that because that's kind of where I learned how to ride was in Slady Fork and Snowshoe, and there's a lot of backcountry riding there. So the cross country aspect of it, and I actually did some cross country racing like early on, which was great. I learned a lot from that, and then got into downhill because Snowshoe, West Virginia, y'all. It's such a hidden gem, and that part
Yeah.
is just really fun. So I feel fortunate. That's where I learned how to ride. It's taught me a lot.
The only thing I know about West Virginia is when I've driven through it and just the tolls. That's literally all I
Oh
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The turnpike, it'll get you every time.
Yeah, I went through there, like, 3 o'clock one morning, and I was like, "What?" And it was the first time I've been through there, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" I just
Yeah.
know I keep going up and down, up and down, up and down, and paying a toll, and I was like, "I don't know anything about West Virginia,
Yeah.
but that's awesome."
I love it. Like I love my home. I mean, I love being in Sedona now, but I so appreciate growing up in the mountains in that area because I think West Virginia itself gets a bad rap for people. They're like, oh, just like there's a bunch of people who are barefoot, pregnant, and have no teeth or something like that. And I get that side of it, but it's actually beautiful landscapes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gorgeous places to ride your bike there. And, y'all I still have my teeth, right? Like, there's a lot of good people in West Virginia. So I feel like it gets a bad rap, but those things are not true.
Yeah, yeah, that rap comes from Boone as well, like, but it's
Yes.
like either they're a bunch of hippies or it's once again just a bunch of barefoot, pregnant, overall wearing people in the sticks, like, it's one or the other, and there's no in between. I'm like, "There's a lot of decent people that come out of there," but
Yes, I
that's
feel
really
like
funny.
the movie Deliverance, and there's a lot of movies that were based in West Virginia that just give it a bad rap, and I'm like, "It's not like that, y'all."
Well, it depends. Does it say based on true events?
I
I'm just kidding.
don't
I'm just
know.
kidding.
I'm like, "Wait a second."
No, I'm just playing, but so do you still do any racing today?
No, I have not. The last race that I did was an enduro race in West Virginia, and I placed second to my girl, Sue Haywood. She got first at it was the Wavumba series, which is the West Virginia Mountain Bike Association, and they run a bunch of different races. So I have not raced since I moved out to Arizona, and one of the reasons why is because I was really focused on coaching and how I could start building a client base here, being in the Southwest, and just develop my coaching more.
And so when did you realize, like, what was the turning point when you realized, like, okay, I love mountain biking. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life as a career. Like, I want to coach and I want to guide and I want to help people.
I That happened for me, that like turning point, that switch, I guess, when I did move to Sedona. And because there was no coaching company here when I first moved. So I was coaching through companies that I could get permits or insurance through. And one of those companies was Ninja Mountain Bike Performance and Grit Clinics. And I decided, like, hey, I was going to make this work regardless if there was a company here. And then, of course, like years later, end up starting my own thing. But before that, I was just trying to make it work, right? Like I was trying to figure out like, hey, how can I reach these people and really help them develop more skills on the bike? Because I have seen so much progress in my riding from working on skills development and becoming a safer, more confident and skilled rider. And that is what I do here in Sedona. But I also help people learn how to practice the skills after they leave the lesson, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of going to a lesson and starting that skills development, because you can go to all the clinics and the classes and get all the lessons. But if you don't actually practice that skill or bring awareness in your riding to the things that you're doing, you won't progress or get any better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you just said something really fascinating too about um, safe but confident.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of injuries and crashes happen when hesitation takes place. When
Yeah.
someone hesitates and they don't, and not just in cycling or anything, but like even car crashes or something like that. If someone sees something and they hesitate, that's usually when something bad happens. So to go in completely confident and capable, I guess, is
Yeah.
definitely like the best way to go about anything. But
Yeah. And I feel like some of the reasons why we hesitate on certain features or new trails, or, whatever we're trying to overcome that we're hesitating on, is because we haven't developed the skill leading up to that to feel confident on it. So maybe there's a missing piece in that person's riding. Take, for instance, if you're looking at a new drop and you're like, okay, this is a 4 foot drop, like sweet, like I want to hit it, but you have a lot of hesitation going into it. You roll up to it once, you don't hit it. You roll up to it twice, you don't hit it again. You roll up to it 3 times, and you're like, you want to, but you can't, because that fear aspect of it, right? And so, what that tells me is you need to go back, right? We need to regress before we can progress that skill. And we really need to think about, what are the steps that are going to get me there. And a lot of times it's the small things that will help a rider progress in their riding and become more skilled in order to hit that drop like it ain't no thing.
Absolutely. And so, to kind of take a step back for a second, what does it look like to become a coach and a guide and an instructor? Like, what all, I guess, hoops do you have to jump through to be able to get that title?
Yeah, so I became an instructor. I think breaking those three down is really important: an instructor, a coach, and a guide, because I really see those as three separate things. I became an instructor back in 2015, and I got my certification with a company then called Terra Method at Snowshoe Bike Park. And they teach you how to teach the skills, and I was learning how to teach those skills so that I can then teach clients that came to Snowshoe and get them down the hill safely, right? And then I did that full time for, I don't know, um, 2.5 years. And then when I moved to Sedona is when I really made that switch to from instructor to coaching. Because in my mind, coaching is really helping the rider develop after the lesson and giving them steps to progress after. Like you're checking up on their progress, they're reaching out to you again, you're doing a series of lessons. It's not like, hey, I'm just teaching you this skill. Yeah, because I can teach you how to lift your wheel, or like front and rear wheel lifts, and that's great. That's some instruction. Like there's a lot of people who out there who can teach the skill and get people to implement it, but the coaching aspect of it is really helping the rider progress in their skills, but also develop as a person in their riding, which I think is a huge part of this. And now in my coaching, really helping people develop the mental aspect of their riding, because there is so much to overcome on the bike that and relates to the things that we do in our lives, in our everyday lives, and there is definitely a connection there. And so once people see that, and they see that the work starts before they ever swing a leg over the bike, that is a game changing moment. They're like, man, I can do this work here, and then it actually helps when when they're riding their bike, which is awesome. So I think that's one of the biggest. So for coach, instructor, and then the guide aspect of that is one of the biggest components for me is just keeping people safe out there. And of course, navigation element of it as well, and curating a epic experience, an adventure as a guide, right? And so here in Sedona, developing Trail Lovers into more of a mountain bike brand now, we have really taken the time to you know, just curate this experience in Sedona. It's like, hey, yeah, we're going to ride our bike, but we're also going to learn about the plants, the rock formations, the whole experience, which is pretty amazing. And, like little things like why the rocks are red, or like, what this certain plant is on the side of the trail, which I think makes a huge difference in that way you learn more about the area as well. And yeah, you get this epic experience where you're shredding downhill and uphill in Sedona, and you get to see all these amazing views, but you actually learn about the land that you are recreating on, which is also a very important element to guiding.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And so, for guiding, is it like, do you take them out for like half a day, a full day? Like, do you do any overnighters, or like what does that look like?
So you can book 2 day, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, half day. You can do full days, all the way up to full days. And that's a whole experience. So with Trail Lovers, we do a custom mountain bike experience for you. So say you want to go out and you're like, hey, Joanna, I'm coming to Sedona. Like, give me all the best of the best. Like I want to ride all day long, show me all the things. So we're going to pick you up, and we're going to create an experience for you based on your skill level and based on your riding ability, so that it's fun for you and you're not getting in over your head on trails that are not fun for you, right? Because that happens a lot here. And we use shuttles as well. So we have the access to do point to point rides so that you can maximize your downhill if you're like a downhill junkie and like climbing is not your thing. Or if you are a straight up like cross country nerd, not all cross country people are nerds, but like you just want to go out and pedal push. Okay, cool. Like let's go get a lot of miles in, and we're gonna pack snacks for you. We're gonna have all the gear for you, knee pads, shin pads, elbow pads, the whole 9 yards. We're gonna have everything good to go, and that includes like a catered lunch as well. So, yeah, and it's going to be a pretty awesome time. So that's typically what it looks like, and the custom experience is really important for us. And we also offer night rides as well. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
pretty
pretty awesome.
sweet. Yeah.
That's really
So we
cool.
set you up with lights and the whole 9 yards, and we just go out and take you on a really awesome night ride experience.
Yeah, no kidding. How long did it take you to learn how to read people and their skill level?
Oh man. You know what? Somebody just asked me this question the other day. They were like, Joanna, how do you, when you see someone, do you automatically know like what their writing style is? And a lot of times, yes. And it has taken me years to get to this point, but I can look at someone when I first meet them, and I feel like first impressions are huge. And I believe that your energy as a person just like introduces you before you ever say a word, right? So greeting clients is a huge thing, but I can see how they handle their bike, how they get it off their bike rack, how they position it on the ground, how they carry themselves. Like I can spot a pretty confident rider. I feel like I'm pretty good at that now.
Nice, that's
versus
pretty cool.
someone who versus someone who maybe, it's their first time and they're like, super nervous or, whatever. But yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good these days at spotting somebody who's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, in the scenario of like someone's like, "Oh, I want to go do this," and then you're like, "Well, maybe let's pump the brakes a little bit." Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Well, so at Trail Lovers, we have a questionnaire that before they ever do a lesson or guided tour with us. We have a questionnaire for them. So they fill out all of these questions, like based on their riding, like their experience, how long they've been riding, what other trails they have rode. And that kind of helps us narrow down what we would take them on. And so sometimes as a coach, there are times when I'm in the coach, when I have a coaching hat on, if you will. Sometimes I do have to tell people no. And I do have to set boundaries with them to be like, hey, I realize that you want to ride this feature, but I need to see you do skill X, Y, and Z first, like flawlessly, right? And then I will, and two, if they trust me as their coach, they're not going to question that. And they would be like, okay, cool, like that sounds great. Now, in a guiding scenario, that looks a little different, right? So beforehand, if they're like, hey, I want to go ride this like gnarly trail, it's also like, hey, what other trails have you take Hangover, for instance. That is a double black diamond trail in Sedona, and it's has a lot of exposure on it. And, it's a pretty tricky trail to clean. There are a lot of steep descents, there's a lot of slick rock, and there's also a lot of technical sections going up. And so yeah, I would take someone up there if they have previous experience riding those things. And there's always the option to walk or hike a bike, yes, but what's going to be the most fun for them? Something way over their head that they can brag to their friends, like, yeah, I rode Hangover Trail. Maybe you
Barely.
walked yeah, barely, maybe, but maybe it's like, let's go ride something way more fun that you're actually going to ride, like a blue trail in Sedona or like Slim Shady, one of my favorite trails in Sedona. That is such a fun trail. Like it's just going to be a better time for them. So we really help them curate an experience that, hey, like trust us as guides, we got your back. We want you to have the most epic experience and the most fun on the bike. And that's what we do for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very curious because I'm going to tell all the listeners right now, but What is Cycling is going to be having a bike packing trip. And we're going to, like, I don't know if it's going to be tickets or what, but we're going to let people sign up, whoever wants to come out. But I want to know how you keep people safe from a guiding perspective.
All right, this is a great question. That first aspect of that questionnaire for them is, depending on if it's a group or if it's a single rider, that's a big difference too, right? So if it's a group, I'm always giving my guiding spiel beforehand. Is like, yeah, giving each other space on the trail and 2 to 3 bike links, and just making sure that they are aware that there's other trail users in Sedona, right? That's a big thing too. And letting them know, like, hey, we're going to be riding trails that were within your skill experience so that we don't get in over your head. And I'm going to be watching them throughout the ride for things like, are they eating enough? Are they replenishing the calories that they're burning through the ride? Are they hydrating? Because I don't want to deal with people out there bonking, right? I mean, it's happened. I used to do a lot of big backcountry tours, and that used to happen, and it's not pleasant. So I have to be the one to remind people to take care of themselves because they're so excited to go on this trip and to go on this tour and experience, Sedona in this way. But it's the desert and it's different. And just those things, I honestly think keep people safe and help them have the best experience instead of one that they're like, oh my gosh, that was, not what I expected or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been on the backside of a bunch of bonks and stuff, so it's not fun no matter what side of it you're on. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine having to like coach people through like, please, please eat, please drink, stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah. And it's just being mindful of those things, bringing awareness to, yeah, fueling your body through that and replenishing the calories that you're burning and the hydration that you need to perform better. Because I feel like it's something that's not chatted about enough. It's like, eat. Eat more. Like if you're finishing your ride and you're starving, you probably didn't eat
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of I just have a question about moving from West Virginia to Sedona.
Yeah.
How did that affect your, I guess, fuel intake on the rides? Like, because obviously it's hotter in Sedona and I like drier and everything than the elevation in West Virginia and all that. So how did that, could you tell a difference in your body? Like when you would go on rides, be like, okay, well, I'm taking in a lot more water. I'm taking in a lot more fuel.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're going, in the desert out here, people call it like the dry heat, right? Versus being out on the East Coast where it is humid. And yeah, I noticed that I needed to have electrolytes. I couldn't do a ride out in the sun like that, and you're just exposed to sun all the time. I mean, we have like something crazy like 300 and some days of sunshine here in Sedona. So like it's going to be sunny outside, and taking better care of my skin has been huge.
Mm.
And just having that skin protection, like whether it's a UPF hoodie or sunblock, or making sure that I have electrolytes. And so a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I started working with a nutritionist. Jen Cates is her name, and she's out of Denver, and she really helped me dial in my nutrition because I was guiding and coaching a lot, and by the end of the day I was so beat. I was just like, man, I have zero energy, like I cannot do anything else. And I was definitely under eating for all of the activities that I was doing in my week. I was under eating by a lot. And
Mm.
so with her help, she really helped me see that I need to eat a lot more, and sometimes taking those times with my client to be like, hey, like we're going to take care of ourselves right now. We're going to eat something and we're going to hydrate and we're going to reapply sunblock if we need to. That has made, and that may seem so small, but I'm telling you, it's made the biggest difference in myself and my performance out there and how I can do this day to day and show up for my clients 100%, but also for them. It's been a game changer and they have way more fun.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. Like, it sounds like one of those times when I've talked to people and they've been like, I used to only drink water when I would ride. And I'm like, you would do how far
Yeah.
on just water? I'm like, just try introducing electrolytes or like any other substance into that and see how you feel. And they're like, I don't get cramps anymore. And like all this crazy stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's just like you have to learn your body and how it absorbs and also how you replenish and just the types of fuel too. Like I would notice that if I did too much sugar, my stomach would flip and then I couldn't really eat or drink anything. It would just kind of make me sick. So then
Yeah.
throwing in like real foods and like peanut butter tortillas
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Like,
Oh,
it's just a
yeah.
whole learning curve that everyone has to go through.
Yeah. I agree, and it's something that, it's funny that I had to figure this out in my 30s. I'm 35 now, and I just figured that out a couple years ago, like, "Hey, girl, you need to eat more." But with a lot of help from friends. One of my friends, Abby Chan, she's in, Flagstaff, and she's a registered dietitian, and she puts a ton of good content out there about, athletics and athletes that need to eat more. And so that really does help. And I'm like, oh, yeah, she's actually right about this. So, yeah, just becoming aware of it is huge.
Yeah, that's what everyone wants to hear is like, "You need to eat more." They're like, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you." What is your approach when when you're teaching someone and you're mentoring them? Like, how do you change your style based on who you're mentoring?
Well, I feel like one of my superpowers as just me, myself, and I, and who I am as a person is that I'm really able to connect with people on a personal level and build trust with them right away. And that has taken me a long time to get to that point. But I feel like clients come to me because they trust me. They either see me on social media or have heard about me through, friends or whoever. But when they come to me, I want to give them that experience and let them know that I really do care about their writing and care about their progression. And one of the biggest reasons why is because I know how that is. I know what it is like to struggle in my writing. And I wish that when I first started writing that I would have had someone like me, right? Someone to be like, "Hey, you actually can do this," right? And that support and yeah, I really love working with whoever it is, like men, women, whoever is open minded and comes from that growth mindset of like, hey, I want to learn because I too am always learning. And that is something that I always let people know. I'm like, yeah, I do this professionally and I am still always learning how to do it better. And I'm always learning how to ride better too, right? Like I'm always getting coaching myself and learning how to be a better coach is really important to me. And one thing I always start with, no matter who it is the words that we tell ourselves on the bike. And men or women, it doesn't matter. The words that you speak to yourself is such a game changer. And so if you're learning take wheel lifts for instance, if you're learning how to lift your wheels up off the ground and then you take it to trail and you're learning how to lift your wheels up on obstacles, if you're immediately saying to yourself, I can't do that. Or, all this other negative talk. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she expects me to do that. Or, whatever the narrative may be, it's learning how to reframe that and tell yourself, I can do that. Because I put in the work before that, I can do that. And rewriting those stories that we have told ourselves so many times. And I see this so much, and I've done it myself, like putting these limited beliefs on what I'm capable of. And it is just not true because we are capable of so, so much, not only on the bike, but also in life. And so, how can we show up 100% to that and really take on that and see it as a challenge to grow and develop instead of something that is holding us back?
Yeah, like, after hearing you talk, I'm ready just to go punch through a door, like, I feel
Get
s yeah, I feel so
it.
inspired because I that's one thing I do love about your message that you put out on Instagram is that you focus on the self-confidence and the self-esteem, like, going into I mean, just to take a page out of your book and, like, just apply it to life, like, as you were just saying, like,
Yeah.
not exactly talk down to ourselves, but we do have, like, doubts and we don't build ourselves up, and I know I'm a victim of this as well, that I do it to myself, and, like, we just have to rule out and get rid of all the negative thoughts, and you'll be so much better at whatever you do and whatever you choose to attack in life.
Yes, I agree. And it does. I mean, as you see it in your everyday life, I mean, I do this drill, talking about like getting rid of the soft talk. So in your writing, it's like, oh, maybe I could, or maybe I should. And it's like, what if, or it's like all the little words that keep us stuck that keep us stuck and don't let us move forward. And getting rid of that, but also taking that into your everyday life and seeing where you're telling yourself that, like, oh, maybe I should do this, or maybe I could do that. So if you get rid of that could or should, I can do that. Right? Like, so you're taking that like soft talk out of it, and you're adding in this confidence aspect of that you actually can do the thing, which is huge. And that has been a really, really big game changer for my own life, and noticing the words that I tell myself on the daily. And so, as going back to the hesitation part of that, is to notice in your life, where are the areas that you hesitate? Do you hesitate to show up for other people? Do you hesitate to, do a certain task? Do you not do it like right then? Do you hesitate when you go to the store and you shop for shampoo? Like, are you sitting there like, oh my God, notice those areas in your life where you can clean it up and make, quicker snap decisions. And I promise it goes a long way in your writing. Who knew? Right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, how long did it take you to like kind of establish that mentality? Like, how long did it take you to learn it yourself and then apply it to your students, I guess?
Yeah. So, talking about the soft talk, there is a certification called the Enlifted Method. So, if you look at that up on social media, I love, love, love these guys, and they talk a lot about the mindset aspect of the words that we say. And it has made such a huge impact in the past year, I don't know, maybe even 2 years of my life, the words that I say to myself. And I notice it all the time, and I'm not perfect at it because I'm still human and I'm always learning how to do it better. Yeah, I have those days where I'm just like, ugh, not feeling it. Or I've listened to myself tell all these stories that were not true. But you better believe that I'm way more aware of it now than I used to be. And that is the first step, is just being aware of the things that you are telling yourself, because you are capable and you can do it. And I always let my clients know, if I'm demoing a skill for them, or whatever that may be, they see me write a section, they're like, Joanna, you make it look so easy. I'm like, yeah, you know, of course I do, because I have more reps in than you do. And it's not that you can't get there, because if I can do this, so can you. You can do it as well. It's just that I put the time and effort in to make it happen. So I just always like to remind people of that. It's like, I didn't just wake up one day and I was just like, here telling myself this awesome, beautiful story to myself all the time. Like, I still have mental chatter. I still have bad days, I still have the times when I beat myself up. And it's just being aware of that. And another tool that I use is writing that down, writing that story that I tell myself down. And when you see it on paper, it is looking you back in the face, and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I tell myself those things. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are two good practices to get into.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start
Mhm.
implementing those. I could see how writing it down would be like very shocking.
Yeah, you read those back to yourself, you say it out loud after you write it down. Wow, you're like, man, I cannot believe I said that. Because I wrote this post the other day, and I can't, it was a couple days ago. But if the voice in your head was projected over a loudspeaker for everyone to hear, would you be proud of that voice? And so I always come back to that, and I'm like, man, if the people around here were listening to what was going on in my head right now, would I be stoked to share that with them? Or would I be like, oh gosh, you know?
Yeah, because that's my problem is like my mind is just always going on full blast, and it's constantly moving, it's loud, and it just talks all the time.
Yeah.
And there's a I don't know if you follow crit racing at all, but there's a crit racer. Her name is Paige Kostanecki, I think, and I hope I didn't butcher her last name, but she's on actually Butcher Box Cycling, and so she did a podcast with Crit Nation, and it was really great because it was about kind of like mental clarity and all that and mental health. And she says like during races, she'll get like a bad thought in her head and like, oh, why are you doing this? Like, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make the break or anything like that. And she'll audibly be like, no, or like, get out. And she's just like, she's turning off those triggers and she's like keeping her mind focused on that and keeping all the negative thoughts away. And I'm like, I would love just to be in a meeting at work and be like, no, that'd be
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's great because it is being aware of the thoughts that you're thinking, right? It's like when we notice immediately, like, man, I can't believe I just told myself that. Okay, cool. Well, we get to tell ourselves a different story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna start trying that, writing it down and just seeing what like I'm not gonna like it, but I think that will be a step in
No.
the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, and then hearing yourself say it after you write it down, you're just gonna be like, "Wow, I can't believe I said those things to
Yeah,
myself."
yeah, I'm
And I
not looking
get
forward to
that.
it.
Yeah, and I get that, and it's a good practice to get into because we all have that imposter syndrome that comes up sometimes, and it will tell us all these things that, "Oh, we're not capable, and who do you think you are?" And, you know, etcetera, like, whatever the story is, but we don't have to listen to that, and we get to show up in a big way. We each do, everybody, and that is what I see that is so many people's superpower on and off the bike is like you're an individual, and there is no one size fits all instruction for people or doing things. Like you get to show up in the way that you are meant to show up that is individualized to you, and there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's interesting too, like, no matter how much you do something and how long you've been in like, how long you've been in the industry or how long you've been writing or anything like that, you will still at some point in time have imposter syndrome. And it's just like,
Yeah.
then you look back on all your experience and stuff like that, and you're like, why? But why? It just, I don't get it. But
Yeah.
it's just so wild.
Yeah.
And so, with being a coach, being an instructor, we briefly touched on that after you give them a lesson or something. What do you recommend for like what ways off the bike can they work or like what ways off the bike can they learn and do to be better on the bike?
The first one and the first suggestion that I would give someone is strength training. Of course, like off the bike, becoming stronger. Nobody ever regrets that, and it's only going to help you in your riding. Some form of strength training. Some people have cycling specific that they do, others follow different programs, but it's really just moving your body in different ways. And then working on your mobility and yoga. Yoga to kind of calm the mind again, bring awareness to your body. But mobility is huge, especially for cyclists. And what I have noticed for myself, but also for a lot of other mountain bikers, is that we need that. We need to work on our mobility so that when we show up on the bike, that we can move in a better way. And because I don't know about you, but I want to be able to ride my mountain bike up into my 90s and
Yeah.
beyond,
Yeah.
right? Like I want to stay healthy doing this and stay injury free and really take care of myself. And so those are definitely some ways that you can. Strength training for sure. I've seen a huge improvement in my life because of that, and also yoga and mobility, definitely. And then last, I would just say we kind of just chatted about this, but nutrition is huge off the bike, right? And so, yeah, needing to eat enough while you're riding, but also while you're off the bike, taking care of yourself in that way is huge.
Yeah, and I want to come back to strength training, but I don't know. I have these namaste frogs that I put out for you because I
I
know you
love
really like the
it. I love
yoga
it.
and stuff.
I have one in my house.
Oh yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome. Perfect. I got two of them over here. But so when I interviewed Matthew Fairbrother, he's from New Zealand. He is a enduro mountain biker, and he was saying the exact same thing. He was like, because I asked him, I was like, in what ways off the bike can someone get better on the bike? And he said strength training too. And he was, if I recall, I think he was talking about like for like pumping through things downhill and stuff like that is good for strength training. But like, in what
Hmm.
ways does strength training benefit you other than just targeting other muscle groups and everything like that? But is there any other specific ways that strength training helps cyclists?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially in the mountain bike world. Sedona is like a workout in itself. There's so many step ups and ledges, and it's technical riding. So I would say I'm a big technical riding person. I love it. But strength training for me has really helped me develop a better bunny hop.
Oh, okay.
Bigger wheel lifts, of course, getting up and over things, really maneuvering my bike in a better way. If you're stronger in that way and you really emphasize strong through the core, you're going to be able to handle your bike a lot better. And yeah, and just like overall strengthen my legs in order to pedal and keep endurance. Another way that strength training helps me is that I get less injuries because of it. When you're strong and you've got those muscles that are wrapped around the bones, man, when I do fall or I do wreck, still happens occasionally. Um, it doesn't hurt as much. And typically I am, it's like bubble wrap around me. And so I'm just stronger and can take those hits. Not that anybody wants to take those hits, but we are in this sport where stuff does happen. And so being stronger in that way is huge. So injury prevention is a really big one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have slick rock that you ride on all the time, like,
Hmm.
and there's slick bridges, and like in the fall, there's leaves everywhere, and there's no telling what can make you wipe out. But yeah, that's those points make more sense to me. So that's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
So I want to get into the how you empower women. So what are you doing? And I love this about your message too, but how are you empowering women on the mountain bike besides coaching?
Oh, well, one of the ways that I do that is through MTV Vibes. And MTV Vibes is a little jewelry brand. I say little, but it's definitely exploded over the past 2 years. A jewelry brand that I started during COVID. And so, just like everyone else in lockdown, I was like, dang, I'm bored. Like, what am I going to do with all this time that I have now? And so I work at Thunder Mountain Bikes, and Phil at the time was managing Thunder Mountain Bikes, and the mechanics there have a lot of bike parts that they get rid of. And so I was like, you know what? I am so into arts and crafts. Like, I love crafting. I will craft so hard. And I just started taking all those, like these big buckets of like chains and spokes and tires, and crafting them into earrings and jewelry. And at the time I didn't realize, like, I would just gift them to friends for, whatever. Or just like, hey, these are cute. Like, you should wear them. And they're like, Joanna, you should sell these. And I was like, oh no. They're like, you should start an Etsy. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe somebody will buy them. They blew up for sure. Like, everybody was buying MTB Vibes, and then it just grew into this brand of, it's a vibe. Like, wearing these earrings will give you superpowers. And I actually believe that because I have the best intentions with creating them. And it's my creative process. And I love to let ladies know that, hey, like, you are still strong and you're capable. And the message behind these earrings, I actually have some on right now. These have little puff balls on the bottom of them.
My
um,
favorites, the one that I've seen, are the ones where it's like the chain link and then the little lightning bolt underneath. I'm like,
yeah, those are.
give me some long hair and I'll be a 70s hair metal band.
Yes.
Oh,
Hey, you
I'll
can you can wear those without the long hair. Those specifically are my best sellers, and those are
yeah.
called the Ode to Lady Shred earrings. And the story behind those is, it's for the lady that shreds, for the lady who wants to show up no matter what. Doesn't matter her gear, doesn't matter what bike she rides, doesn't matter who she's riding with. She's going to show up 100% on her bike. And it doesn't matter the titles of QOM, what Strava puts out there, the industry standard. She gets to have fun on her bike no matter what. And those are really just to empower, women to show up in the industry, show up in the mountain bike industry, and change the game of what a mountain biker looks like, right? And yeah, I love it. I really love how that brand has evolved. And I've been at Rome Fest, which is a women's mountain bike festival here in Sedona, several times. I have an online shop, And yeah, sometimes I close it because I'm a one woman show over here, y'all. So, a lot of times what I put out will sell out immediately, which is great. And it's just been a cool way for me to connect with women. And yeah, they have some like, cycling stuff dangling from their ears. And it's like a reminder every time it taps onto their cheek to be like, hey, girl, you got this. Like, show up and do that thing.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, once again, if I had my ears pierced, I would probably buy some and rock them because 'cause they're so awesome. But you actually set me up really good because I, of course, was on your blog and on your website and everything, but I liked one of the articles that you wrote because I think that the cycling world needs to change the dynamic, I guess, is what I'll
Hmm.
say. But you wrote a blog post about how your exact quotes, and I'll read it, is get over the fear of something being male dominated. Be a female leader in the sport and show up until other women start doing the same. You can choose to be the only female there, or you can be the only female who shows up big and makes a way for other women to do the same. And I read that and I was like, with that mentality, for one, you were just so powerful. Like, once again, you could punch straight through a door. Like, it's awesome. But you can overcome anything with that mentality and like just grab the handlebars and go. And that's what I really like that because once again, I think the cycling world does need to be not as male focused because there's
Yeah.
so many different aspects of cycling that still are. And there's a big pushes that are going towards like inclusivity and everything like that, but I feel like it still has a lot to go. So I just want to ask like w- in what ways do you think the rest of the cycling community could help empower women in cycling?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And I love that you read that blog. I can't
Oh, it's
remember when I
great. I
put
love
that
the
one out.
content on there. It was fantastic. I read it and I'm
Awesome.
like, I feel so empowered and I'm not a woman. And I'm like, but that's great because
Yeah.
I mean, once again, you're pushing out to me the right message. And I fully support it and it's amazing. It's great. I love what you're doing. I'm honestly very jealous of the life you're living because I'm like, I want to be living that life. Like it's really great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm stoked about it for sure. But one of the reasons why I can say that and stand by that message is because I have had other women in this sport do that for me. And I'm so grateful for the women who have supported me. And throughout my cycling career or however long I've been riding bikes have just been like, Joanna, you can do this. You got this. Like, keep showing up, keep doing your thing. And you'll eventually get there. Like, whether that be skill wise or, pushing me in a part of my business or supporting me in different ways. Other women have led the way for me. And also men. There have been a lot of strong male figures in my life who have helped me, my husband being one of them, who have helped me in the industry to keep showing up like I do because our voice is so needed in this way in this sport to change it and let other women know again that they can do the same thing and you can empower and inspire people and it doesn't matter what your background is or any other limiting factors, but show up and be yourself is so huge. And yeah, brands and the mountain bike industry need to see like, hey, us doing our thing and showing up in that way is just huge. So yeah, I love that you read
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I read that post and I've read others too, but like those what 2 sentences, those stuck out to me the most. I was like, women, like let's go.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah. Yeah, because I know it was honestly me writing that to myself because I have had instances, and yeah, we could talk about all the times like, oh my gosh, that I've been put down in this sport or like felt really small, or people have said things to me. Yeah, I've had that, but I am choosing not to focus on those things. I am focusing on the things that are good and going to propel me forward and keep that momentum to keep being and to keep shining and showing up in this way in this sport. And I really hope that it helps and inspires other people to do the same, male or female.
Yeah, I like cycling depending on the style of cycling that you like to do. There is kind of like a status quo. Like
Hmm.
like if you get into road cycling or something like that, like there's snooty people, I guess is
Yeah,
the nicest way
yeah,
to put it. And it's just
yeah,
like regardless of who you are, like you know about those people and it's like those kind of give the whole cycling world a bad, I don't know, bad taste or a bad flavor.
yeah,
So just
yeah,
overcoming that and not being scared to be like, you know what, forget them. It doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it for me. I'm gonna have fun. This is my adventure. I'm gonna grab the handlebars and keep pedaling.
yeah. And it's breaking down those barriers and making sure that mountain biking, because mountain biking is for everybody. It's for every person that wants to get on two wheels and experience how awesome it is to ride your bike. And yeah, there's a lot of limiting factors for other people getting into the sport. And so, how can we make it easier and more accessible for others to enjoy this as well? So, yeah, I think it's an important message and something that we all need to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And you were kind of talking about like you've had some very large influences, but who were some of the largest influences on your cycling career and I guess just your life?
Oh man, I have so many. But as far as females go, my first mountain bike coach that I ever experienced instruction with was Sue Haywood. And Sue is such a powerhouse. And then I have other girlfriends, like, especially in the coaching industry for sure. When I was first getting into volunteering before I ever got into coaching, Angie Weston is a huge, huge mentor of mine, and I just Angie opened so many doors for me and was just like, hey, like you can do this. And yeah, you should get a cert and you should do this. And my friend Hillary and Kelly and Ladies All Right, Lindsay Richter, like her as well. And then there's so many other ladies that I can name that have just opened so many doors and have supported me and invite me to their clinics. Tara Alcantara, Homegrown, she's in Tucson. So many others that I could name that have just been such a positive influence and just lead the way and continue to lead the way in the sport, which is huge. So, yeah, those are just to name a few.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
yeah,
fantastic.
there's a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. And so I want to move just because I don't want to keep you all night, but I want to move to the Q&A because I feel like there's some pretty good questions.
Oh, I
And
can't wait.
I'm excited about not exactly putting you on the spot, but putting you on the spot and getting you to answer these questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, so first one comes from Taylor. And this one is still kind of on the same topic, but what are some good books for or I guess just reading material? What is some good stuff for building confidence and self-esteem?
Oh, I would recommend this book, but it's one of my favorites, and I always go back to it and helped me change my mindset and show up a lot more. It's called Fear is My Homeboy, and it's by Judy Holler. And Judy Holler is an improviser, and she talks about the yes and mindset. Go get that book right now, girl. It is a game changer and will help you move out of imposter syndrome and really take action. And I took a lot of inspiration on that from that book, and yeah, she talks about nothing works unless you do. So putting in the work behind the fact, whether that be skills practice or mindset, any of those. So go grab that book. Judy Holler, Fear is My Homeboy.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to buy that book too. And
It's good.
so Matt wants to know, do you have more seasoned or new writers that you coach and how do you change your coaching to fit the need of the writer?
It's a great question. So I'd say mostly I coach people in that beginner to intermediate range. I do get advanced riders sometimes, but mostly they're like beginner intermediate ish. How I switch the coaching around to meet their needs is based on their goals. So we'll work together in that way to see like what their ultimate goal for their riding is. And maybe that is just building confidence, getting more stability, balance, control, whatever that is. Then we'll start breaking it down and tailoring it to their specific goals, which is huge. And it goes back to that what I said earlier is there's no one size fits all instruction because we're all in different bodies, we're all on different bikes, and we all have different goals for riding. Because some clients just want to be able to keep up with their kids riding down the street or on trail or whatever. And then some clients want to shred real hard and they want to hit gap jumps and they want to, you know, I don't know, shred double black diamond trails, and that's sick too. Um, so it's like tailoring it to, okay, cool. What are our goals? And then we'll dig into the skills part from there.
Okay, awesome. Steve, I call him Dirty Steve. Dirty Steve wants to know if you wrote an autobiography, what would the title be?
Oh my goodness. This is a good one. Ah, man. What would the title be?
This was the hardest, like, Justin, I thought
Yeah,
about
this
this for
is
me,
so
and this was the
hard.
hardest question.
Ugh.
Coming in hot.
Yeah, I would say, like, just off the cuff, I would say, nothing works unless you do. I'm gonna go back to Judy's thing. Nothing works unless you do because I really believe actually, yeah, nothing works unless you do, and there's gonna be a dash on there. Progress over perfection.
Boom.
Because of the fact that I always talk about that. Everybody has their unique journey on the bike, and sometimes we can get so stuck in our mindset about what other people are doing and how they're progressing that we lose sight of our own progression on the bike. And I believe that you should be so stoked about you and yourself and what you're doing because guess what? Nobody else is going to be unless you are. So get excited about what you're doing in life. So yeah, I guess that's what I'd go with right now.
Wow, yeah, I mean, that's great because honestly, the nothing works unless you do, like, I feel like no one's ever said that to me, but that's kind of like how I was raised, like, from my parents and
Yeah.
stuff, like, so it's kind to hear it, I'm like, "Huh, that actually is, like, something that you should live by." So that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so the next one is from your boy. What
Yes.
steps did you take to build your brand?
Oh, I love this one. So, some people who have been following me for a long time, and I've been posting on Instagram and social media since, I don't know, I want to say like 2008, 2007 or something like that. But I was a yoga teacher before I was a mountain bike instructor. And so I actually led a yoga retreat here in Sedona. And yeah, so, and I still do my fair share of yoga. I just don't teach as much as I used to. I used to teach 7 different classes when I lived in West Virginia. And I really started to build my brand there. And I was very new and still learning in the learning process of riding while I was doing yoga. But that really taught me a lot about being patient in my writing, but also taking that to the mat as well. And so I just started sharing that and being like, hey, these are things that I'm struggling with. And hey, I'm still showing up, even though I'm like falling all over the place and I have so many bruises on my body. Like, okay, cool, we're doing it again. And I just started documenting my process. And then, of course, like any brand, and you're just kind of like, keep talking about the ways that you're evolving and growing, my message started to evolve and grow. And I don't think that it really took off until about 3 years ago when I really started talking about the things that I was struggling with on the bike. And as a female, as a smaller person, I know you can't see me right now, but I'm 5'2" and I'm a short rider. And so I just started talking about, hey, these are the things that I am struggling with. And I feel like if I have felt these things, like somebody out there has to feel this same way. And so I just started talking about that struggle and really it was to myself who was really in the learning process of it was hard for me to learn how to or it was challenging, I will say, to learn these new skills and I realized that I need to implement practice. And so from there my brand started to evolve and people just started being like, hey, I resonate with that too, which was awesome. And so now I still promote that, and I promote a lot of practice and awareness and mindfulness in your riding as well. And yeah, to see it grow into this and implement now with my in person coaching, having remote coaching as well. I also have a skills challenge that I run every season. So in the spring and the fall. And it's a 30-day mountain bike skills challenge where you show up and you implement different skills progressions to lead you to getting a certain skill. And that has really helped me grow my band because people talk about it and tag me in different things, and that's really helped too. But the overall process of this has been people are resonating with what I'm saying and the struggles that I've had because they have been there too. And so I think it's really helped the process um, of, yeah, building this, like coming from that growth mindset and a mindset of just always learning.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. So for the last one is another question that I brought to the table, but in 1 minute or less, it's like a speed round. What is
Whew.
cycling to you?
All right. Is it go time? Are we at go
I
time right
guess, yeah,
now?
I'm not.
3, 2, 1, go. All right. Cycling to me is overcoming the obstacles and the challenge and seeing it as a way to grow instead of something that you cannot do. And in doing that, you will become such a better rider on the bike, but also that goes back into your life and you'll become a better human and you'll learn to be kinder to people and come from just this aspect of, hey, I'm not, I'm learning too. Always growth mindset, always back to growth mindset. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Try to get it in there fast.
Yeah, no, that was
That's what
great.
cycling is to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, because I mean, the podcast is called "What is Cycling," so I have to ask the question.
Yeah,
But
no, I love it. I think something to add to that too, as far as like learning growth mindset, and that is just like the community of this, like the fact that we are here speaking in this way, and like you ride, I ride, like bikes bring people together, and that's so amazing. And my friend Becca always says that when you ride a bike, it's almost like cheating for friends because you're like, oh, cool, we have something in common, and we can. Really start to develop that relationship. And I think that's so something that's so special about riding bikes, no matter what kind of bike you ride.
yeah, I completely agree, and that's a good point from your friend to be like, "That's cheating." Because yeah, some of my best friends have obviously come from the cycling world, and
Mm,
who I probably would have never met unless like my best friend Matt, unless I stepped into the Trek shop to get my bike fixed one day, I would have never met Matt. So it's just like it's the fast track to the top for friends.
yeah, I agree. It's cheating.
Yeah, exactly. She's not lying. Well, it's been great to have you on. You're such a great person. I love the message, and I need to talk my wife into us taking a trip to Sedona so we can go mountain biking with you because that would be fantastic. But thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And we'll do it again sometime. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.